Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of our Nadi Digital Economy Malaysia this week. With me is my colleague and fellow editor, Dzof Azmi. And we're going to have a rundown of about maybe 5 stories this week to talk to you about. And the first one is and I want to credit Soya Chincha, which is an online publication that used to cover just technology news from a consumer point of view, but they have broadened their coverage to talk about business tech also, because obviously, they've been doing a very good job. They've been doing the best job in covering the Cabotage issue in this country. And I just want to give them a shout out. And they again wrote another article, and where the National ICT Association, Pikom, together with Malaysian Internet Exchange, MyIX, both issued statements expressing their grave concern that the issue of Cabotage, and this is where, just for quick background, we have a policy where the new Minister of Health, Health, we're always talking about health issues, right? The new Minister of Transport is almost a year now in his position, right? Siong has now overturned a previous exemption of a cabotage policy, which simply states that previously foreign-owned vessels, right, submarine laying and submarine repair vessels could come into Malaysian waters to repair any cut cables that any of the big players have coming into Malaysia, landing and going into our data centers. Siong came in last year, right, when this new government came in, and he overturned that exemption, and he said you must use Malaysian flag-bearing vessels. Got all the big players in arms, and I'm talking about Amazon, Google, and even Microsoft. Because they prefer, because these are highly, fragile and very expensive equipment, they prefer to have a vessel of their choice to come and repair these cables. But Siong said no.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Yes. That's the point. I think the minister had said that Malaysia has the capability to handle this, right? And for some reason, that seems to be the sticking point. That on the one hand, the minister feels that the capabilities in Malaysian hands, but based on this article, it feels like the foreign players are not confident about that, right?
No, and also because the backstory is there are 2 companies in Malaysia that they have a lower quality vessel that can be used to repair cables, and one of them is owned by an entrepreneur that the back talk is that he's a political supporter of the MCA, which is the party the minister comes from. I asked that entrepreneur the question, hey, are you politically supporting MCA? And he said, we are apolitical. But the rumor, the talk of that is not abated. And people just said that the minister's decision doesn't make sense. People are investing billions or hundreds of millions of US dollars into this infrastructure. They should have the right, when it's a highly technical field, to bring in a vessel of the quality that they want. Okay. So now it went back and forth, and actually was with cabinet. The cabinet 3 months ago was already supposed to have decided, and that decision is not known yet. Officially, we are hearing that the decision has been made that they support the idea of keeping the exemption in place so that foreign-owned vessels, foreign flag vessels, can come into Malaysian waters to repair these cables if there is a need. And you generally do feel there's a need. It comes every now and then, right? The cable is cut accidentally. So the decision, but the decision not being announced, because cabinet now is busy with, fighting with, under this emergency, fighting with COVID. And apparently 5 of the 6 ministries which are responsible have already agreed that we should be overturned. Of course, Siong is sitting there saying, no, our local company can do that. But when you have a perceived interest in the local company, it becomes very messy and ugly, right? And but the industry is now demanding for closure on this, right? Cabinet said they're going to discuss this. Please let us know the decision, because they're confident that the decision will back them up. And Chew Kok Hin, who's the chairman of MyIX, says that the silence on this issue is continually causing jitters with foreign investors who have invested their time and money in internet infrastructure leading into Malaysia. He said, don't muck around, right? And he said that some of their members believe the issue will be buried. And really, this does not bode well for Malaysia, especially when it comes to efforts to attract and retain FDI. So it is a dire situation, and Pikom also, a credit to Pikom, they came out with some strong comments to say that, hey, this is not good. You've got to reinstate the cabotage exemption. And Lee said that, the chairman of Pikom, Dan Lee, said that a lot has been said in response to the policy, and mostly expressing concern, right, that if not exempted, it will impact the economy and have dire consequences on investment. So, and he said, we're already seeing MNCs giving Malaysia a miss. So this issue is now back on the front burner, credit to against Rai Chin Chow, and let's see what happens with this. Right?
Well, I just also wanted to add, it's clearly an issue of transparency, isn't it, Karam? This question of like exactly what is the issue and why, how are they going to make their decision moving forward?
Let me carry on. The issue is the minister is saying that the vessel in Malaysia has got the capacity and the capability to go and repair these cables. The local, the foreign-owned players here, and even some local players are saying we prefer, when something like that happens, involves our asset, we prefer to choose which ship, specialized ship we want to go and have it repaired.
Mm-hmm. The next story that we're going to talk about is this announcement, very recent announcement by the Ministry of Health, that a few weeks ago, Ministry of Science and Technology decided to make available all data about vaccination, made this data available through Github, and it's meant to be updated regularly, daily actually, and anyone can come in and just download the latest data on vaccination. Now, Ministry of Health has done something similar for COVID infections in Malaysia, right?
Okay.
So you can get information like the number of cases, number of deaths, the utilization of hospital beds, utilization of ICU, and some contact tracing information. And this has come, I mean, in one sense, it's following the lead of what MOSTI did with the vaccination data. In other sense, it seems to be an attempt to address some criticism, right, that the Ministry of Health has not been that forthcoming in this data or has aggregated the data, so you don't know what the detail is. I just want to say, by the way, I understand the challenge that when you present data, sometimes you don't want to be so granular about it that it confuses people what you actually are talking about. So you have to take a step back and sort of summarize and aggregate the data. But then when you do that, others complain that you don't know, you don't see, like, you don't know precisely where the issues are, right? And this is probably the most forward-thinking way of addressing the problem, Karam. I think you've talked about before the issue of Malaysian government being more transparent about the data they have within the government.
Yep.
And I think
just need to go and do it, right?
Go on.
Put the data out there, right, and let people have a look at it and slice and dissect it how they also want, right? We're moving into an era of open data, and government has to lead the way because they have just the most amount of data.
Very quickly, I saw something today where someone took this data and made a little chart of cases in ICU per 100,000 in a state. So what is the rate of ICU utilization given the size of the state, which is useful to understand, actually. So it's just an example. Someone could do it really quickly, really easily because data
exactly. So fast, right? Wonderful. So, crowdsource the creativity of Malaysians there who want to, who can then, crunch and come up with their own data that they want to see, right? So it's fantastic. So, okay, let's move on to Khairy Jamaluddin, who said that, and this was an article that came out on Lawyat, said that only no physical fully vaccinated badge, only digital. And I'm amazed with this because as we were sharing before we started recording, I was reading an article yesterday, last night, because we taped this on a Friday evening. And there was in France, many people will know that they are now mandating to show proof of vaccination before you enter theme parks or restaurants. And there was this theme park, a ticket person looking at the vaccination card of two, look like teenage or early 20 French girls. And it was the physical card they were showing. And I was just blown away. I said, wow, you would think it would be digital. And then now Khairy, right, and we read about this story with the coordinating minister for the National COVID program. He said that there'll be no physical vaccination badge for those who are fully vaccinated. The only option is that you got to use your digital cert that is in your MySejahtera, or you can print out the cert from the JAV website, which is the vaccincovid.gov.my website. So at least they're giving you that physical option. So, but and these are the only two options, right? No card and all that. And I like it. And beforehand we were discussing that the only exception I would ask is that for people 60 and above, give them the option of having something physical, and actually, you are able to print out your vaccination proof, right, from the website. So
Yes.
do that and let them have that, right? So please, laminate that and or fold it up and keep it carefully in your wallet. You can't laminate it because then it's A4, I guess, right? I don't know how small it will be, but you got to keep that carefully, and that becomes your ticket elsewhere. But 60 and above, I think they should have this leeway, and looks like that leeway is this. You can print it out. So I think it's a great initiative. You've got to get people digital even more so.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying when I was talking with you earlier, saying this idea that is digital first, right? So the original copy, if you like, is the digital version, and then everything else. I think, by the way, also to add that this obviously follows on how people are using MySejahtera to check it when they go into buildings, right? So everyone's very used to holding up their phone to do this thing.
True.
Not everyone can do it, of course, but the fact that I would say the vast majority do it means that we're already used to this idea. And I think it's a great thing to do moving forward to continue this.
I know. And however, the person who decided to use the QR code sample was hammered by social media, because instead of using a dummy code, he used one that was apparently linked to a SoundCloud page of an educator talking about ICT evangelist. So that's really a open goal, right? You just scored an own goal there. So I'm sure Khairy is super pissed at that clumsiness, but hey, we live in a digital world now. People will check. So easy to check, right? So everyone get your act together and be on top of your game, right? We're in a new world now. So let's move on to Astro, and you follow this story very closely. So I'll let you take lead with the next two stories.
Well, I've covered, by coincidence, I've covered a few stories about Astro over the last 12 months. And what Astro did this week was they launched their Ultra Plug and Play box. And the long story short is that if old Astro was you putting up a satellite dish on your roof, and without that satellite dish, you couldn't get Astro.
Nope.
New Astro basically says all you need is an internet connection, and then you can get everything you need.
Fantastic, right? So, Malaysia's digital economy moving further ahead. I love this.
Yeah, I mean, used to be the joke is, when it's raining, you can't get Astro anymore, right?
Absolutely.
And the truth is that now that if you're using the digital form, their so-called Ultra Plug and Play box, that should not be an issue anymore.
Yeah.
But of course, the bigger picture, Karam, here is Astro's efforts to sort of pivot themselves into becoming either, you want to call it an OTT aggregator, an OTT player, a digital-only player. I mean, this is something really fascinating to see Astro, a company as large as that, with as much legacy, if you like, trailing behind it, trying to navigate this.
When you say a company as large as that, but they're saying the truth every quarter for the last 4 years at least, right? Every quarter they're losing subscribers, right? Gradually to OTT services, Netflix being the biggest competitor. So the writing is on the wall, so you have to act. But they've been acting even before the last 4 years. So, and City Research, which is a unit under Citibank, came up with a very interesting piece of research, and they credited Astro with executing very well on their strategy to move to becoming this super aggregator, right, for streaming services. And when you're a market leader, you're comfortable. Very hard to make the transition, but Astro are. So credit to Henry Tan and the team with him, right? Henry Tan, by the way, is the CEO.
There is, by the way, there is another story associated with Astro in the news this week, and it's the story about their Miasat-3 satellite. And the problem is that it's, and I'm not a big satellite expert, but the phrase used was drifting in an uncontrolled orbit, which sounds terrible, right? But the fundamentally the problem is that the satellite is not where it should be. It's a little bit off, and the fact that it's a little bit off causes problems with the transmission, right? Now, the thing is this: if you're getting your Astro signal now over the internet, this satellite drift is not an issue for Astro subscribers anymore. Having said that, they're not abandoning their satellites, of course. They're sort of doing both at the same time. Obviously, there are many subscribers in Malaysia that don't have good internet access. And really heavily rely on this satellite access. The news report, this news report in lawyat.net, said that what they're doing anyway is that the satellite that's in trouble now is scheduled to be replaced in 2022 with the new satellite. So So they're probably somehow either going to
Accelerate. No, they're going to
don't know.
accelerate the launch of that satellite, right? So you cover both
Yeah.
bases. But good. Okay, come, let's move on to the last story then, because we are now talking about, right, air taxi service. So I'll lead with this story.
This is
Zof,
real
right?
21st century stuff, Karam. Air taxis, man.
I know. Look, as
People
it is,
can collect nasi kandar by helicopter. Now you can.
I'm already nervous, Zof, about maybe small pieces of that wobbly satellite, right, landing on my roof. So all of you who live in landed property, like me and Zof, do go and check your housing insurance. Those of you who live in condos, you made a smart choice. But anyway, coming back to this story, right? So Malaysian airports, right, Berhad has actually signed an MOU with a German company, which is called Volocopter, right, to look at the feasibility of coming up with delivering air taxi services in Malaysia. So Volocopter and actually another company have actually Skyports, right? They are designer and operator of Vertiport. So there's a term called Vertiport, which is essentially an airport specifically for air taxis. Amazing, right? So they're already doing it in Singapore. So the good thing is, thank you, Singapore. We can learn from Singapore's mistakes and whatnot, and they can roll it out in a quicker and safer way in Malaysia. So I love it that Singapore is doing it first. And being neighbors, of course, you probably want to do something that they're also doing. This looks very interesting, and it further, I mean, people will get a wow factor when they see this. If they see these taxis, right, going above, the skyline of the Klang Valley and Penang. Again, the Klang Valley. You and I live in the Klang Valley, so I wish they would start this in Johor Bahru or Penang, right? Let the Klang Valley be third. I got no problems with that.
Well, I think this agreement is Malaysia Airports. When I'm reading between the lines, they're not just looking at Subang Airport, right? They're looking at potentially many other airports as well. And certainly, I kind of envisage actually the target really is to have something in Johor so that customers in Singapore can fly over to Johor.
Wow, interesting.
I think that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it, Karam? But I just want to tell them I have a big padang in front of my house. If they ever have an helicopter service that can land in the padang, I'm more than happy to try out.
Volunteer. Please talk to your neighborhood resident assistant management committee for permission, okay? Don't jump the guns off. But anyway, look, with that, we will end the show today. And some of you will comment also, either on our personal LinkedIn's or on our YouTube channel, and we can have a little bit of interaction going. Otherwise, we will see you again next week. Take care all, and make sure all of you get your vaccination.
Okay.